go.
At a very high
Didn't
level,
get you one.
rolls to the right, and he throws downfield, and that is intercepted. Picked off by Hood. Colton Hood.
Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Oliver Hayes alongside Harrison Simeon, and we are back for episode 7 of the ScoBuff Sportscast. And yeah, I don't know, beat down in Arizona. I've been covering basketball, so I mean, got a decent amount of stuff to get into.
Yeah, no, we do. And you were in Kansas City the last few days. You were on a nice little vacation for Big 12 Media Day. Really happy. The first time that I can recall anyone in this club being there for that. At like a conference media day. Maybe we've had Pac-12 in the past, but Big 12 obviously, and lots to talk about with the new coaches, new opponents. So we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, also football, taking care of what was, what we viewed as a decently formidable opponent in Arizona, but handling them in blowout fashion. And for the Buffs, it's been a good week to be a Colorado fan. A lot to look forward to, and a lot to look back on and be proud of. Um, so we'll start with the basketball, though. As I said, you were in Kansas City, and just tell me about that experience. I mean, I almost went, decided not to just because of school-related things, but what was I like?
I mean, I don't know, you said it was a vacation, but I mean, seriously, I was really only there like to work. I flew in Tuesday night, like went straight to sleep, woke up Wednesday, went to media day, and then left media day to go to the airport. So it's not like I really, got to see much of Kansas City. I've only been there once before. And I think it's a pretty cool city, very unique. Um, has it seems to have a decent culture. Um, really the only thing I got to experience was a good barbecue sandwich at Joe's Barbecue. It's called the Z-Man. Adam told me that I needed to get that, and so I was like, bet. Yeah, I'll get that. So I had it on the way to the airport, so that was fire. But no, either way, I didn't really get to experience Kansas City too much. But the Big 12 Media Day itself was super cool. I mean, I just, I've it's really my second trip that I've done in my career. The first being the Pac-12 tournament, and that was sweet in itself, just because it was the last one, and at least with the teams in the conference then, and I don't know. Of course, it was it's the Pac-12 tournament, so all the media amenities were super cool. Like the media hotel was sick. Being in Vegas was awesome. All that stuff was dope. But being in Kansas City for the media day, I had no idea what to expect. Um, but like I don't know, the day is just for the media. Like I think that's one thing I just kind of forgot is like this is it's for the players and the teams as well. But I think if it was up to the coaches and the players, I don't think they'd really care to do this. This is all just for the journalists, and so I didn't really think about that until I was there, and so you know they treated the media pretty well, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. But then on the flip side, it was just or not on the flip side, but just in addition to that, of course, actually being there, it's not often that you know I don't know if there's any time if I'll be able to talk to any of the opposing coaches, even in just a post game presser this season. And so the fact that I was able to talk with as many coaches as I did. Like I was able to talk to UCF's Johnny Hawkins and Arizona State's Bobby Hurley, Houston's Kelvin Sampson. Of course, talked to Tad for a little bit. Talked to uh, the West Virginia coach. I can't Darian DeVries, that's his name. He's a first year coach. I talked to Steve Lutz, Oklahoma State head coach. He's a first year coach as well. So I talked to, a decent amount of head coaches. I talked to some players as well. Of course, CU sent uh, Julian Hammond, Javon Ruffin, and Andre Yakimovsky. But I talked with um, I talked with the Iowa State players, and just kind of, what their mindset is heading into the year and being picked as highly as they were. And then Utah, of course, sent a familiar face and Lawson Lovering. So chatted with him a little bit and he seems to be doing okay, even though Utah and Colorado are helping take up space in the bottom of the preseason poll. So, you know, overall, there's a ton of stuff I could get into. I know I've been kind of yapping for a few minutes already, but yeah, no, just an overall great experience. It was, I was kind of sick of the NIL questions. Uh, they just continuously ask the coaches, "Well, what do you think about NIL? What do you think about NIL? What do you think about the transfer portal?" And I kept thinking to myself, I thought this was, I thought, all this stuff happened a few years ago. But besides that, it was cool, talking to the amount of people. I was able to meet another journalist, student journalist from Kansas State, etc. It was just, yeah, overall the dope experience. And you know, for something that I didn't necessarily have too high expectations for, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, no, I guess part of the reason I didn't end up going was like, oh, what's the point? As opposing coaches, what's the most you can get out of that? But from what you've told me, both just now and yesterday about your conversations with like Kelvin Sampson and some of the other coaches that, it seemed like a whole lot of fun. So I'm really happy you were able to go experience that. And for the Buffs, this is the year to do it if you're gonna go to a media day for the conference. It's their first year back in the Big 12. And, though it's going to be extremely tough to be competitive in the conference, I think it was you quoting, shoot, the I'm gonna feel terrible about this for forgetting the Kansas's coach's name.
Bill Self.
Bill Self. God damn. Why do I always blank on Bill Self? He's like the most popular coach. Anyway, Bill Self, him saying that this will be by hands down the hardest year to win the Big 12. Just because it's going to be a loaded conference, full of amazing basketball. And I remember back when they were talking about Gonzaga even being in there, that would have been insane. And then they brought up UConn maybe joining the Big 12. I think that was about a month ago. So it's going to be a fun year for basketball just to watch all around the conference, and I'm glad you were able to experience all that. And if you had anything more to add, I know that the barbecue sounds great. I've always wanted Kansas City barbecue.
Yeah, no, the barbecue was sick. I only had, one sandwich and a side of fries, but it was good enough for me, at least for, the little amount of time I was there. But I guess just another thing to add real quickly, is just that, like, I don't know, part of the reason that Self said that is just because I think there's, just due to the sheer amount of teams in the league, like it's kind of crazy when you actually think about it and you realize that it's like, this is for real, like, a whole conference in the NBA. It's a 16 team league. Like that's so wild. And so it's crazy, with uh I think this is the first time ever that conference has had five teams in the top 10 of the AP poll. Um I think it was, and so just having that in itself, and then not only that, but then having all these teams that are solid. And I'm trying to remember who exactly said it. I'd have to look through my Twitter. But one of the coaches in the morning talked about how it's not just the top that's great. It's the middle and the bottom as well. They're all gonna give you a tough game, and all their venues are gonna be rowdy and excited to cheer on their team and root against the opposition. And no matter what, it's gonna be you know it's just gonna be a solid tough game no matter who you're playing. And so I think it'll be a very interesting year for the Big 12 in general. It'll be very cool for Colorado, even though the expectations for them aren't as high. And then I guess just also another thing that was cool is John Higgins, the legend of officials for the Big 12. It's his first year taking over, and um, I'm pretty sure they said it was his first year taking over. I'd have to fact check that, but he said for the first year ever, they're doing game by game evaluations for each referee, and they're not allowed to the public, obviously, but it's supposed to help these referees understand the game and understand their calls and what they're missing and potentially why they're getting games or not getting games, especially in the postseason and stuff like that. So I thought that was a very cool, um, you know, a cool way to go about things. So hopefully it creates the transparency that I don't know, Higgins kept talking about. He mentioned that every few weeks the referee crew will send out a like a training video on specific calls to across around the league to all the teams so that they know, how they're calling, block first charge call and things like that. Um, so, I thought that was a interesting tidbit that didn't get too much recognition um during the media day, but I do wonder with the Big 12 being as physical as it is, if there would be a boost in refereeing. I know coming from the Pac-12 with the Buffs, I don't think there's any way you could not get a boost in refereeing. But either
Yeah,
way,
no, the bar is quite low. I love the sound of all of that. I mean, even just being a Colorado fan or, a follower of CU and Pac-12 basketball for the past few just 2 years basically. I was already sick of the Pac-12 refs. And so hearing that there's going to be quality checks and everything like that for the Big 12, super encouraging to, you know, hopefully limit their factor in the results of games. And just provide fair refereeing and everything like that. So a lot of encouraging stuff with the move to the Big 12, I must say.
yeah, no, I think it's very evident how much the Big 12 cares about like the product that they're putting out. I mean, it's very evident in in just the history of it all, and of course the numbers that the coaches kept bringing up. But when you see the effort that they put into the media day, and just the venue, and all the things, and how well ran it was, for 16 teams was pretty remarkable. Like it was funny because Pat Rooney was the only other C reporter out there. Um, and so we were talking to Yakumovsky, and Yakumovsky was with Washington State for the Pac-12 Media Day last year. And so we were asking him, like, how did it compare? And Yakumovsky was like, oh, this is way better. It's so much more like, it's ran smoother. It's gone way faster. Like it's just done a whole lot better. And so even the fact that just the players are recognizing it, I think, it obviously shows that there was, some work to do in the Pac-12 and why that, ended up failing. But I think, I'm not sure if, I obviously didn't go to other conferences media days, but I think the Big 12 may have had the best one, across the nation. And I think it would just be very exciting stuff for years to come. And yeah, just I mean, on a night to night basis, it's going to be, as I said, and as the coaches kept saying, it's just hard fought game after hard fought game after notable matchup. I mean, all the coaches were asked, like, oh, what's the hardest game on your schedule? What do you think about this stretch on your schedule? And they're like, dude, the hardest game on my schedule is the one that we're about to play. Like, this conference is just so damn tough. And, that's kind of the coach answer that they're always going to give. But, I think it really applies in this situation in comparison to um, really any other, conference in the past, at least in our lifetime.
Yeah,
But
no, those are some good points just about how the coach would answer. Like th this conference is incredibly deep. It's not just the top of the crop with Kansas and Houston and teams like that. It a lot of teams are really well coached, and so many it's that much harder to game plan for the season with so many different opponents. So speaking of the Big 12, I think that's a pretty decent segue into the Buffs matchup football wise against Cincinnati this weekend and their past matchup this past Saturday, in which they demolished Arizona, which I I don't know. Nick could have made a quote graphic saying that they were of me saying they were mid, but I'm glad it didn't age too poorly because that was a mid football team that played Colorado and Colorado made light work of them. So what did you see from what you were able to watch back of that game that really stood out to you?
I mean, I thought the biggest thing, which is something that you touched on very heavily like last week, was just the fact that they got out to the quick start. Um, I think it was what was it, the first score on an opening drive since NDSU, I think it was. I
Yeah,
may be completely wrong, but I think, yeah,
the
okay.
first touchdown on opening drive.
Okay, yeah, I think yeah, that makes sense. First touchdown, and then of course they score two touchdowns on the next two drives, and I that just set the tone right away. Even though they had the two turnovers, the drives right after, just the fact that they're already up that they already had three touchdowns in the first quarter, and just showed how dominant their offense could be right away was very promising, and admittedly that was only really the only part of the game that I was really able to kind of catch live, just because the basketball team was playing up Pomona Pitzer in their exhibition. Catch if you want to hear more about that, go to In the Heyday. Uh but
Famous.
anyway, but anyway, like I said, just the fact they got out to a quick start, and then of course, the defense showed up again, and every week that's always a bonus for me. When the defense comes out and puts up a solid game. So you know, I feel like this game is a little hard to kind of evaluate in some cases, just because like you said, Arizona, you know, maybe it was maybe even less than mid. Um but
Yeah.
just the Buffs did what they needed to do, and then maybe then some. So very very exciting stuff for the Buffs and their fans.
Yeah, and you mentioned the defense. That was my biggest standout. I thought, I've thought all season Colorado's done a great job of when the defense is on, everything's on. So the offense will just feed off the field position, and we'll smell blood in the water and just absolutely pull away of some of these games, like we saw against UCF, like we saw against Colorado State. So the defense getting 7 sacks first or most in 15 years. I think it was against Iowa State in 2009 or sometime around then. Um, and seeing an array of different players get to the quarterback was a really fun watch. Keaton Wade, Kentucky transfer. I don't know if he logged a snap, even on special teams. Maybe just special teams, but hadn't seen much of the field at all this season. Was dealing with a foot injury and came back, looked really good. Had 2 sacks, both of them on third downs. And I think with the pass rush, it was getting home because the it fed off the offense as well. So it's a two-way street. Um, because the offense got out to that really good start and forced Arizona to abandon the run completely. Arizona had a decent run game at first. They were able to put together some chunk runs. But once the Buffs got out to, that really solid offensive start, DeJounte Wester once again putting up really, really good numbers, even without much involvement from Travis Hunter once again because of injury. I think for Colorado, this was the game where you saw everything kind of gel. You didn't see a real moment of doubt um, at any point that they were going to come away with a win in any of the 60 minutes. So, seeing the defense get to the quarterback, another name that got 2 sacks, Samuel Okunlola, a guy from Pittsburgh. I was really excited for. Dayon Hayes has been out for a little while because of injury. I don't know when he would be returning. He's been out for a while. But the other guy from Pitt we got, Okunlola, has been a force in the pass rush lately. He's really come into his own. Obviously, the Buffs now lead the Big 12 in sacks, and they only had, I believe, 5 in their first 4 games. So that just shows the kind of heater they're on. So, like guys like him, guys like Arden Walker even picked up a sack. Um, so the pass rush getting home, I thought was a huge factor in just keeping, pinning Arizona down and keeping them at that 7 point total the entire way. Eventually forcing Fafita to make the mistakes he's prone to making. He had a fumble, I believe, and then the interception at the end to Colton Hood that, completely sealed the deal if it wasn't already. So forcing turnovers and just making plays overall. I thought the defense did a really good job at. Colton Hood has earned his spot in the cornerback rotation. He was tasked to guard McMillan, which I was skeptical of at first, but I think he did a really serviceable job at, especially after Travis went down. Travis not really guarding him most of the game due to that injury. So yeah, overall, I think they did what they were capable of doing to the highest degree. And I think back a few weeks ago when we said when Scott was talking about this isn't the ceiling, the UCF game wasn't the ceiling for Colorado. It became even more complete against Arizona. So I think something very encouraging, and now it leaves the Buffs just one game shy of their first bowl game in 4 years.
Yeah, and I think yeah, no, it's just a great position to be in, and riding the momentum at this point in the season is very promising, as I said at the to end my last answer. And you brought up a few good points. Obviously they had the sacks, and the defense was solid, and I think one thing that also um speaks to how good they were was that it's not like the offense didn't turn the ball over a few times and put the defense in a tougher situation than they might have been if it was just a punt. And so the fact that, I mean, only 7 points for a whole 60 minutes is quite insane stuff. And so I don't know. I just wanted to mention that real quick. And then with Colton Hood, I mean, that's someone I've been, or do you have something to say real quick?
Yeah, no, I was going to mention I don't even think they let them into field goal range. Like
Yeah, I
they didn't even
think
it wasn't like they were letting them move the ball and then getting the turnover. It was just not letting them move the ball at all. I would have to look at what their total yards were,
yeah, they
but
had
after the
245 total yards and
how
only
much
one
after
attempt in the red zone. So,
yeah, no, how was the total yards after the first quarter if you could find it?
oh, I'd have to look at the halves.
Because the first quarter was when they scored their touchdown. So I'm thinking like, and it was a long drive, so it was probably less than 150.
So yeah, after the first half, the total it was 224 for the Buffs and 143 for the
Okay,
Wildcats.
that was second half. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they were, and I think part of that's probably garbage time too. I think I do think Arizona had one missed field goal. I think at the end, around the end of the first half, they were able to even get into
Yeah,
field.
yeah,
But
they
other than
missed one
that,
field goal.
Buffs kept them out of the red zone, and yeah, I'll let you continue your point. Sorry to interrupt.
No, no, you're good. I was gonna, go on to my Colin Hood hype train just because that's someone who I've been super high on this whole I mean, since he arrived. I mean, well, okay, I won't cap. I won't say since he arrived because I had no idea who he was, really when he arrived. I was just like, oh, Auburn quarterback, like that's cool. But over the offseason, we learned that he was performing really well in the Auburn spring practices and was expected to maybe not expected to be a starter, but was definitely in those conversations as of spring practices at the time before he entered the transfer portal and came to Colorado. And so the fact that you know that came to fruition and he's been as solid as he has been is just super cool. And you know I just always have to appreciate whenever a guy has certain expectations for whatever reason, then he's able to cash in and then maybe add more than you may be expected because it's not often that you almost get two pick sixes in back-to-back weeks. So it was just really cool to see from him. Um, and then honestly, I'm not really sure if there's much more to add about this game. The defense was solid, offense was solid, got to the quick start like we said. Um, you know, the team played really well without the impact of Travis Hunter. Even though he played, some snaps. So it was just added to my point of last week that it was very promising to see the Buffs play as well as they did without a guy who, you know, I was arguing that, had won them two of two games the first 4 weeks, in Baylor and NDSU, and that still may have been the case, but just, like I said, the fact that they played one well again, without his impact again was pretty promising, and you know, the fact that the running back room is also has three different starters at this point. With Isaiah Augusta putting up another, decent game. It's, just all around, it's very promising stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I just can't, usually I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, I don't know. But, promising, exciting, those are my two words for this episode, at least in regards to football.
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, it was the most complete performance from start to finish, and I've said that multiple times now this year. So we're seeing how the Buffs are just kind of putting it all together at this point, and we're hoping that going into this weekend against Cincinnati, that can stay complete, that it can be a multi-dimensional football team. Because, sometimes in those home games, we see some of the slow starts, we see some of the tendencies of old, that the Buffs have really struggled with. And so, with this being another really late kickoff, I'll leave it at that. Um, I I'm really, looking forward to see how this team comes out. Because if they come out flat again, then, there's going to be questions. There's going to be, you know, a lot of wondering, is this team, as good as they've performed in some of the road daytime games where it's, they're able to play fast and get up and go, and then or is it, situational? Is it an inconsistent thing where the Buffs have this potential to be this good and will most likely make a bowl game, or can they play like this week to week and really compete for the Big 12? So what are you looking forward to in this Cincinnati game?
I'm really hoping that, I mean, every week, you want with this Buffs team, you want to see how good the run game is going to be, just because we've seen how good the passing game has been, and how awful the running game has been at points. I'm not even sure if there's a word that could describe how bad the running game has been at some points in Deion Sanders' tenure. And so every game you're looking, can they run the ball? Can they establish the run game? And the fact that Cincinnati has had a troubling time stopping the run game. They've only had two games holding opponents to less than 150 rushing yards, and in one of those games they still gave up 148. So just I'm very excited about this opportunity for the Buffs to really establish the run game. I know everyone in the running back room may not be healthy, and this may is probably going to be another Augusta game. For him to show out. But I'm just, as I said, excited to see um if this is an opportunity they can cash on and really establish the run game, and just add even more confidence to a developing unit that could really put them into that next level, and compete for the Big 12, like you said. Because they're in a pretty good position already, and it's still not like, it's not like the run game is still the greatest thing in the world. And so I don't know. For me, heading into Cincinnati, I think that would be the biggest thing. And then of course there's other aspects. You want to see the defense play well. I know Cincinnati brings a little bit of a different style than some of the teams that Colorado has faced to this point. Um, but yeah, no, I'm excited to see how the run game develops.
Yeah, and I to your point about the different style and, on the run game, I think Auguste, he played all right in his first start. He was a little inefficient, got in the end zone, um, but didn't have, I would say, like, any performance worthy of like a wow or anything like that against Arizona. Not that that necessarily mattered because the Buffs were moving the ball so well, but I'm really looking to see if this game can be the one where he eats. Like, if he, um, you know, uh, just looking at the stats, Cincinnati's third worst in the Big 12 and third worst in yards per rush. They give up an average of 5 yards a carry. So that can be, and, that was around where the Buffs averaged in their run defense that was often, scrutinized last season. So if this can be the game, if there's any game where the Buffs can, start to get that run game really going and establish it, um, this would be one because the way Cincinnati plays, they love to drop eight. They play a 3-3-5 with like a, three safety shell. And that can be something where the Buffs can, go into their RPO game, Shermer can get in his RPO bag, and where Auguste will have little opportunities and they'll just nickel and dime their way down the field. Um, and so when Shador has to deal with a pass rush like Cincinnati's, which is pretty good, it's pretty good. That's I would say the best part of their defense is their D line. That's where Shador is going to have to come in and, pick his spots, when to hand the ball off, when to throw the little slant to Westerth, when to, you know, figure out how to get the timing right and the players that need to be in space in space. And I know I've had my little predictions with the Buffs Wire. I'm predicting a big Jimmy Horn game this week. I think he's due. I know we've like to say players are due. And last season, Jimmy Horn got off to that similar start that we talked about, where he had the crazy first couple games and then kind of just fell off towards the end of the season. Though I think lately he's been doing a good job of just being the clear out guy, the guy that just runs the deep post and sets up underneath stuff for Wester or, passes on the outside to Shepard. But now that, he's very much into the fold, it's not like he hasn't seen much of the field. If he's healthy, I expect him to perform really well, probably get in the end zone again. And so with all that in mind, I think the Buffs will have their way offensively in this game. I think it won't be it may be more about can the Buffs finish drives in the red zone than move the ball on Cincinnati. And we've seen them perform pretty efficiently in the red zone this season. So that leaves us with the defense, which against the Cincinnati offense, I think could be this is where I'll use your word. It's very interesting because if that's Brendan Sorsby, their quarterback, looks really good. 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, almost 2,000 passing yards. They have a really solid O-line. They draw up a lot of really nice plays. Um, the quarterback Scatterfield, or why am I forgetting? Um, they have a good head coach, an offensive-minded head coach. And so, what are you looking for from the Buffs defense this game in kind of this even matchup, I would say, at least on paper?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just the discipline. I was looking at the stats and it's kind of crazy. The Buffs sack numbers are way higher than I would have, guessed at this point in the season. Um, so I don't know. That would be interesting to see if they can, pressure the quarterback, especially because that was a early season concern, especially after NDSU. Um, but uh, but yeah, I don't know. I think before this we talked about a decent amount about how Cincinnati likes to, go to the short game when they're throwing the ball. And as we've seen in the past, that's been somewhat of a weakness for Colorado sometimes, especially over the middle. And so I think it would just be I don't know if there's anything specific defensively. It's not like I don't know there's a specific guy I'm necessarily looking for to stand out or a specific position group. Um, Especially because this I don't know, as you said, this offense is kind of interesting. Given their skill and stats, but also in the way their offense works. And so I think as long as there's last game they were disciplined. I think they only had 6 penalties overall as a team. So if they limit the penalties and I don't know, just avoid junk plays, I think they'll be pretty solid. And I feel like you can say that about any football team. Of course, if you eliminate junk plays and don't commit penalties, you're going to be in a pretty solid position. But um you know I don't think Cincinnati necessarily does anything too too spectacular, or does anything better than any offensively than any of the teams Colorado has seen. And so just in that aspect, that kind of makes it hard for me to kind of pinpoint like a specific area. I just the defense can just show out and just put up another solid showing, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I was kind of just thinking about it and, thinking about their quarterback and how he could perform. In hindsight, the best quarterback performance the Buffs may have faced this year was probably NDSU. And just, I know Raiola and Nebraska rolled over us, or rolled over the Buffs, but Raiola didn't have any special sort of game. He had a few special plays, but overall it was mainly the run game and just the defense rattling CU and them just building off of that, not having any sort of complete demolition of us. It was just the first half they got out to such a big lead, they just ran the ball home. So, looking at Sorsby and how his numbers on paper are good, he's a transfer from Indiana and he's only been sacked 7 times, so he's been kept pretty clean and he hasn't made too many mistakes. As you mentioned, they're very much a short pass team with some really nice play designs that the Buffs would, definitely have to handle. Definitely have to force Sorsby to improvise. But we've seen that. We've seen how Colorado's corners can perform and, be disciplined. In the secondary, I think that's gotten better in terms of the penalties. So if CU can continue that trend, I can't imagine he has a better performance um than the Buffs would anticipate. And I think as good as Cincinnati has been, and as much as they've sort of outshined their expectations, overachieved, so similar to how the Buffs sort of have with, I think, since he was 13th in the preseason Big 12 poll, and now they were 4 points away from being undefeated. They lost one game by a field goal and another by just a point to a ranked team. Um, it's going to be interesting to see if that can be legit against a defense like Colorado's that's been extremely solid, especially in limiting how the quarterback can impact the game. Now, that doesn't mean their offense won't make an impact because since he has a really solid run game with Corey Kiner and Evan Pryor, they kind of have a little boom and zoom duo on their hands. They they like to, establish that run. We talked a little bit before about how much they run the ball. So I think if the Buffs can at least contain that run game and force Sorsby into spots where is forced to throw and he's going to have to move off his spot and improvise and roll out of the pocket. That's when I think the Buffs defense can really succeed.
Yeah, I think so too. And I feel like this happens kind of every episode when we're kind of just scouring the stats. Just trying to see what more, we can kind of add to our point, I guess. But um in Big 12 play, uh um or not even in Big 12 play, just in across the entire season, the lowest scoring game for Cincinnati was against UCF. Not last week, but 2 weeks ago, and a 19-13 win. And in that game, they rushed for less than 100 yards on 32 attempts. And by far their worst running game of the year. And so I don't know. I guess to kind of answer the question that you asked me, um, before you asked me a little bit ago about what am I looking from the defense. Um, of course the run game. Again, it's another thing, the run game was something that, was a huge thing that people harped about last year. Um, and has been fairly solid this season for the Buffs. Um, but if they can contain the run game, I think that'll make it a lot harder, especially with the how much Cincinnati likes to go into the short game as well. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if there's necessarily a specific like point there, or if I have I don't have a specific way like, oh yeah, the Buffs need to stop the run game by doing that. I don't have that, but um, you know, and obviously when a team isn't able to run the ball, that's going to make it kind of hard for the offense to succeed. But um, it is interesting when you see something I don't know, I guess correlate in that fashion, and yeah, just I don't know, trying to make sense of these past games. Um, just because, yeah, still at this point in the season when you've only seen four Big 12 games or four conference games, rather, it makes it a little hard trying to gauge where a team necessarily stands. I know, a lot of teams like you said, the Buffs are kind of a unique team as well. Just in where they got predicted before the season and then where they stand now. So yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a weird thing for me, I guess. But
It makes sense. It definitely does. And one last thing I'll add on the defense is, do we see still the consistent man coverage that Robert Livingston has liked to run with this defense, or does it maybe adjust into the cover two defense that we've seen, where they, are have been able to take away the run against UCF and the pass. So I would lean towards, if I were Robert Livingston, I would lean towards the cover two, just because with the quick passing game that can eat up on man coverage like we saw against NDSU, and like we saw a little bit in Kansas against Kansas State when they would bounce off that, or bounce off the run game that was eating up the middle of CU's defense. So I think succeed, I think definitely a good mix of the two will be in order. Because it would be best to trust the corners with Hood not as playing as well as he is, with Travis coming back, claiming he's 100% on his podcast. I I don't know if I 1,000% believe it, but um and then McKinney, he's been, I haven't said his name much, and that's probably a good thing when you're a cornerback. Um, so I think, and having not mentioned Shiloh's name, this whole pod, usually would indicate he had a bounce back performance, and I think he had a better day against Arizona. Not that he was on the field a whole lot, just because the offense for CU kept driving down the field and dominating time possession, especially in the second half. But you know, for the defense, it's going to take a collection of guys to follow the scheme, and I think with that, um, the Buffs can really ultimately win this game and get that elusive sixth win.
yeah, and it'll be a home game again, and you know, Folsom will be rowdy per usual, and I'll finally be back in the press box. It's felt like
Yes.
it's been 30 years. I was about to say 30 days and 30 nights, but it may have literally been 30 days and 30 nights since that Baylor game. When
You went
was
in
that?
the desert of Kansas City.
Yeah.
You spent 30 days and 30 nights in the desert, and now you've returned to your glory days and with Folsom hot dogs.
Yeah, Folsom Glizzies. So but yeah, no, I'll be just yeah. Anytime see you as a football game at Folsom Field, even when we were freshmen and the team was absolutely horrible. It was always fun to, be at Folsom. So Excited for us to be
it'll
back.
also be family weekend, so it's
Oh,
gonna be
that is
packed.
true.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
it
be
will be
packed.
packed.
Sold out a while ago.
Yeah.
Sold out a long time ago.
It's one of the most expensive games of the year. It's a top 10 most expensive game of the year. I know that, at least for regular season. I'm assuming the postseason will go crazy, but
My gripe is like, imagine paying that much money and then you have to be at the game till 12:30 at night. Like I don't know.
yeah, no, I guess that's one thing we didn't really talk about too much. You vaguely brought it up, but yeah, 8:15 start time.
Again,
Something special. But I don't know, really hammering home the Big 12 after dark.
yep. I
There's
mean,
any
this
team in
makes a little bit more sense just because going into the season, like say this was scheduled before the season, it would make sense because Cincinnati wasn't expected to be that good. The Buffs weren't even really expected to be at this point 5-2 on the season. I think the over under was around this, and just for the preseason polls and everything. So yeah, but then again, this was just scheduled a couple weeks ago. So they haven't spared us any late start times. Thankfully, they spared us the early start times, except for the season finale against Oklahoma State still to come. So I think it should be a fun one. It's a blackout in terms like the theme, so that'll be cool. So I guess that at that point, unless you had anything schematic to add or anything like that, we can get into our score predictions.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add, so I think it's score prediction time. But I guess that means I'm going first.
Oh no,
Uh
I can go first if you need me to.
No, I don't know. I mean, score
Because
predictions are a bunch of
I
baloney
did mine.
anyways. Well,
I
okay.
did
Well,
my
I guess
prediction.
if you have yours, then I'll think on mine real quick. Mull it over,
Yeah.
weigh the options and
hmm Yeah, no, I actually think this will be a close game. I know some people have talked about like, oh yeah, this is a rollover game. This will be a celebration, of getting Peggy to a bowl, and that Cincinnati's offense is, not as good as the number suggests and everything like that. Like maybe that I've even alluded to. But I do think this will be a little bit close. I think it's going to be a game where Colorado jumps out to, I would say, at least a two possession lead at halftime, but that Cincinnati comes out of the second half gates with a little more fire than the Buffs have been used to, um, typically. So I think they make it close, but I think the Buffs. I put in my article, not for Skill Buffs, but that the final score be 33-29 for CU, and I think I'm going to stick with that. I think around 33-29, 34-30, something by less than a touchdown, but a Buffs win nonetheless.
yeah, I feel like I can agree with that. I know we haven't, necessarily talked about Cincinnati like they're the greatest team in the world this episode, but you know, it's hard to it's hard to not give them the respect given their record and the point that you brought up with the fact that they've only, their two losses are by 4 points total. So, I think this has the potential to be a close game. Of course, an 8:15 kickoff in the Deion Sanders era is always something special for one team or the other, as we've seen. Um, and I think not to get too far into superstition and all this baloney, but I don't know. A Folsom Field, I feel like I could see that happening where, at Folsom Field, potentially, securing the bowl game, come out with a solid first half and maybe think the game is won. So I don't know. I feel like I could very easily see that happening. I don't know if it'll happen in that exact fashion, but I don't know. I think I'll go with the Buffs winning 39-28.
I like that.
Still, I think every time I say a score, I swear it has to be a scoregami. But
Hey, I
But
said 33-29 is really weird too, so
yeah, but
we could
I don't know.
see it.
I think the both teams average 30 points a game. So it'll be it'll be interesting. Um,
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, for the Buffs, you know, a win on Saturday would really start to turn heads in terms of can we win the Big 12? Can we get to the playoff even? Your Big 12 championship, um, which would automatically put us in the playoff. But there were even people I saw a video that was like, if the Buffs go 10-2, they're worthy of a playoff spot anyway, even if they're not in the Big 12 championship, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with. I know it's a 12 team playoff, so everything expands, but considering the competition hasn't, there won't be any, like most likely be any ranked wins to our resume. I think it will have to take a Big 12 championship to get to that playoff. Um, so yeah, overall, really excited for the game. And I don't know about you, but I'll be eating a Folsom hot dog in the radio booth, posted up with Matt Smith and Trent and Colby. So that should be a lot of fun. And Nick, can't forget Nick. I'm not going to be part of the broadcast though this week, just because it'll be a Trent and Matt thing, and um, I'll be doing stats and social media.
well, yes, stats are important, of course. So, and having a good social media, I mean, that's what the kids use these days. So that's what everyone uses these days. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I know, you know, we've been talking about football a lot longer than we expected, heading
as
into
always,
this episode. Yeah, as always. But I think
I
we've
had too many damn stats about Cincinnati.
I know, but that's the fun of it. When you get two dudes talking ball, I mean, how could you ever end? But
Yeah.
I guess, we have to move on to some of the other sports just real quick, real quick, because I know you and I both have class in about 10 minutes. Um, but volleyball. Um, yeah. Back in the they, were in the win column for 3 games, then lost to Arizona State, a ranked team in a quick 3-0 loss, and then lost to West Virginia at home yesterday on Wednesday. So tough for them, especially with number 21 BYU uh, coming to town. The Buffs lost to them 3-1 and Provo earlier this season. So yeah, volleyball team not too hot at the moment. They're 10-10, 3-5 in conference play. Um, I'm not sure if you have much more to add about them before we head on to soccer.
I mean, they have an opportunity on Friday if they can upset BYU, then I think it'll feel better. I think even last year when they didn't have the greatest season, we tend to lean positive when looking back on it because they had really nice statement wins against Arizona State at home and, having a really strong start to the season. So I think having the chance to get one more ranked win on the resume will be something to look out for. I know Coach Mahoney didn't even have a presser after the West Virginia game, so they're definitely I wouldn't call them to be in the greatest spot, but I think they have the opportunity on Friday to um you know get some feel good moments in before the season's over.
Yeah, hopefully they can yeah, salvage this season. I know they have a younger core, really focused on the sophomore class. Um so it's not like they were entering this year with the highest expectations, but still as we've talked about on past episodes, they haven't had the I don't know, it's not necessarily the fact that they've lost, but in some of the fashions that they've lost, at least earlier in the year before conference play really got off the ground. So yeah, hopefully they can bounce back and end the quick losing streak and beat knock off a ranked team. That'd be very cool from them. Um, and then I hate that we're rushing through everything, but you know don't want to be late to class. But now we're on to soccer, and they've they've really taken a nosedive. Have been winless for the past. They have last time they won a game. I was let's see. Last time they won a game was over a month. Oh, not almost in 5 days. It will be over a month since the soccer team last won a game. Um, because they lost to West Virginia by a score of 2-0 on my birthday, this past Sunday. Um, and now they only have one game left against Utah, coming this Friday tomorrow. So I don't know. It's Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the soccer team? I guess Harrison. Just at this point in the season, I know it's probably pretty similar to me and a lot of people who have been following the Buffs.
It's a little frustrating for the Buffs recently. I mean, it's been the offense. They just haven't been able to find goals. I mean, they still have had strong performances from Nidus and the defense overall. Obviously West Virginia was not what you would have expected, giving up 2 goals, not even getting one back, um, is discouraging. A lot of it has been on the road as well. So it's been a little bit of a slump on the road, and you only got one more game to fix it, and then the or Big 12 tournament rather. With Utah on Friday, hopefully that'll be senior day. So a lot of players that came back from the team that was in the NCAA tournament only didn't advance because of a fluky goal. They came back for this team, and Nidus got better, but yet the team has somewhat regressed, and now their tournament chances look pretty shaky.
Yeah, did not I don't necessarily know how the soccer atmosphere as well as I do the basketball atmosphere. Um, and also with March Madness and its notoriety, there's no other college sport that can come close when it comes to the selection Sunday. Um, so we'll have to see exactly how that plays out for the Buffs because they do have 10 wins to their name and we're ranked for a few weeks this year and definitely had some high points. But as Danny Sanchez likes to say, things kind of evened out. The offense, I don't think this was kind of a problem waiting to happen. I feel like, especially with the number of 1-0 victories that the Buffs were having earlier in the year, especially begin conference play. Um, it definitely doesn't help that Shira has been dealing with her injuries. I think that's really taken away the star power on the offensive side of the field. Because she was, leading the Big 12 in goals, I think, despite playing, a number of less games than the girl she was tied with. And so to not have her is always gonna be tough. But when they were already struggling to kind of find offense, I think it's just been tough for them to kind of find, you know, in soccer, it's hard to lean on one specific player. Um, but I think Shai was able to bring that a little bit, and without her, it's been really tough for them. And eventually, you know, the the camel's back is going to break, and Nidus may not, get her hand on on a nice shot as she did, earlier in the season, and in soccer, just a miss of an inch and can be the difference in a 1-0 ball game or a 2-0 ball game or a win, a loss, whatever you may want to call it. So yeah, it will be, hopefully the Buffs can get a win on Friday, uh, send the seniors off with a bang, but also give themselves the best chance for the NCAA tournament before um, Big 12 postseason kicks off, and you know they could potentially do some damage there. I mean, obviously they, started the Big 12 season pretty well and have shown they can win. So, anything can happen. But but yeah, unless unless you have anything more to add.
I wanted to add, I guess, a tease to next week. I know we'll most likely have a guest, but I also was looking forward to talking some women's hoops. There was the Colorado basketball media day, which went really well earlier this week. And so plenty to talk about there. Their first game exhibition this Sunday against Mines. And I'm extremely looking forward to it because this is a team that we've never seen in the court together by any stretch of the imagination besides Kendall, Frida, and Sarah Rose. So, yeah, looking forward to that and looking forward to talking about that next week. Though obviously we're out of time now, so I couldn't really talk about media day.
Yeah, no, it's just the unfortunate thing of being a student still and not yet a professional. But you know, we're practicing and whatnot, and hopefully things will get better at the next level. Um, and as always, I'd love to talk some hoops. Maybe I can have you on in the heyday to talk about it a little bit more in depth, but with at least one potential guest.
I'd be
And
down.
spe that I mean we should we'll make that happen during the season anyways.
True.
Um, but with one potential guest for the SBS cast, um, I know that gentleman likes to talk his hoops. So so yeah, we'll probably get into things there. Um, but as always, well, that's pretty quick. What the hell am I saying? I think, I mean, yeah, we've pretty much wrapped it up.
Yeah,
This has
that's it.
probably been the most frantic ending to an SBS cast of all time.
My eyes are glued to the clock, my guy.
Yeah, no, me too. I need to sprint across the hall. So, I'm Oliver Hayes.
I'm Harrison Simeon.
And as always, you heard it here first. Peace.